Hello and welcome to The Print. I'm Sharan Puvarna, and today we're joined by Mr. K Hari Kumar, a best-selling author and a screenwriter and filmmaker. He's also an avid photographer. We're here today to discuss his book, Daiva, that has just been released and published by HarperCollins. So the book is a deep dive on the Daivaradhane or the Bhuta culture that largely comes from the coastal parts of Karnataka. Now, most of you may know this from the recent film Kantara, but there's definitely a very big world of this particular culture, and Mr. Hari Kumar has had this deep dive into this book where he explains almost every aspect of this very fascinating and mysterious sort of a culture. Thank you so much, Mr. Hari Kumar, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sharan and the Print team, for having me on this soft launch. So, yeah.
Wonderful. I'll start by something, a very revelatory sort of, the way you've started this book, where you sort of reference to an oracle, you say, you encountered, or an oracle gave you a lead or guidance and said that your writing would now have a connection with the undead. What is this?
So the oracle is, my family, it is settled in the southern part of the country, my parents. And my mother is very religious. She's deeply religious, and she visits all these temples and in south we have these oracles, in Kerala we have these Velichapans. So during annual festivals and all, they're invited. And that's where in one of the temples, we had an encounter where the oracle, while it is believed that the oracle is possessed. So during that moment of possession, this oracle told my mother that your son will be somebody in the creative field, a writer, and his profession will have a lot to do with the undead, based on the karmic legacies of my forefathers. So that was one of the starting point in this quest, which began like 6 or 7 years ago. So this was that incident. It didn't happen to me, it happened to my mother. It was because my mother was going around taking me to temples and all, because 6 years ago I was planning to quit my corporate job to get into filmmaking and screenwriting. And it was at the same time when I was seriously getting involved in writing books as well. Yeah.
And you also have a web series to your credit, that's Brahm, right?
That's the only one that's released. So yeah, that's the only one to my credit till date. But yeah, Brahm is the web series.
You also draw a connection. I mean, Brahm was shot somewhere in Himachal Pradesh. From Himachal Pradesh, you found yourself, down to the southwest coast of the country. What was the link there?
So there's an interesting story behind Brahm. Originally, it's based on my third book called The Other Side of Her. And that book is set in Kerala, northern Kerala. Okay. And we have some Teyyams in it. Teyyam is very similar to the Daivas, the Kolas of southern Karnataka. And we had the entire story set in this particular geographic location. But when we were making it when we were adapting it as a web series, naturally it was a Hindi web series, and the OTT wanted this story to be set in northern India. Back then, the whole pan-India thing was not a craze. So we had to reset the entire story to Himachal Pradesh. So the whole element of that tribal deity, it kind of crossed over to the northern part. So maybe that is why you have this small connection between the Daivas of Tulunadu, Teyyams of northern Kerala, and this fictitious Grama Devata in Brahm. So that is the connection. Yeah.
Okay. So in your book, you also, you've referenced a lot of English literature, or rather the English documentation of the Daivaradhane culture, or the Bhuta culture. uh, this Western, there's a lot of reference that you've said that they viewed it as something as being evil and demonic sort of a thing. Does it still happen, or has Indian literature evolved on this particular subject? That particular perception is now, has it changed?
See, whatever literature was there like long ago, 60, 70 years ago, it was all based on what these colonial writers have come and written about our culture. So naturally, from their perception, this was very similar to paganism or idolatry and all those things. So that is why perhaps that's the reason why they call it devil worship or demonic possession and all those things. But if you look at the regional writers, the scholars who have done research on the subject, they don't call them, they don't consider them evil at all, right? So this, and obviously we don't have a lot of literature right now on this subject in Indian English, and that's why perhaps Daiva is a book which is filling that void. And one of my efforts has been to portray this as a form of worship of the people. A lot of people have faith in the Daivas. Even the term Bhuta is considered derogatory because of reasons which are mentioned in the book, and that is the reason why that's the reason why originally the title of the book was Bhuta.
Okay.
But I didn't want it to be Bhuta because somehow it's going to bring the spirit deities a step down from where they originally should be, because there are a lot of people who believe in the Dhaivas, in at least in the Tulunadu region. So that is the reason why this book has been written in that way.
There's statements that Bhutas were influenced by Shaivism. Now, this is a reference that you make in the book, and you also brought in references to a 10th century Kashmiri manuscript. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, some of the scholars, they believe, the anthropologists, they believe that Bhutaradhane did not was present long before the Aryanization of the land, of the region. So, and later on, when people who worship Shiva, they came to this place, they kind of assimilated this form of worship into their fold of things. And because Bhutas are also part of Shiva's Gana, that is the reason why many people, if you go to Tulunadu, there is a section of people who would say that who are Bhutas, they'll say they are the Ganas of Shiva, they're the attendants of Shiva. So that way, it is kind of assimilated into this whole Shaivic fold of things. There's also an element of Shaktism which comes in, like there are mother goddesses. So the mother goddesses are forms of Shakti. So all this has been assimilated into such a form today that we cannot really differentiate now. We don't know where this started. That's one of the things that I've explained in the book. We don't know where it started. We don't know the root of it. We can argue for argument's sake. This was a primitive form of worship. Somebody can say, no, this came from Shiva. Somebody can say, no, it came from Mata Rani, because in the north, there are women who get possessed by Mata Rani. So, see, somewhere I think there's an element of truth in evolution, the way the mind has, evolved over time, trying to find answers in things that are around you. I think that's what Daivaradhane is about. Whether it evolved from Shaivism or Shaktism, or whether it was the original Dravidian form of worship, we may never know. Even research will never get you the truth. And that's why I think we call it Satyalo. It's a Satya, that's all.
Correct, okay.
And it makes things simpler.
Okay. Now, there was a very interesting reference, and for kids who grew up in the 80s and 90s, there's one aspect of this book where you sort of detail an experience that you had at one of these traditional houses. And I don't know if you remember, but back when we used to watch DD programs, there was a thing called Kamarottu Halemane.
No.
Okay, so
grew up in Delhi, so no Kannada, no Malayalam, only DD1 and DD2.
So in Karnataka, especially that Tumuruttu Halemane, that particular experience that you detailed, I mean, did that have any impact on your writing? Did that, I mean, how did it influence what you were what you set out to achieve?
This particular incident?
Yes.
So this incident happened, I think, during the lockdown. I mean, or maybe after the lockdown. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but when I was there, this was in Karkala, and this was not a very distant relative's house. It was my wife's. I mean, not my wife's relative's house. So I was there, and it's right in the middle of a halli. So there are no houses around or anything. It's just that one house, and you've got huge this thing, putta, what do you call it? The snakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've got all those things there, and we had gone there to attend a puja or something. And after the puja that night, while we were sleeping, I had this weird dream. And in the dream, I suddenly started seeing some hand falling around and some fire and everything. And this was before Kantara, so don't connect the fire with Kantara. But I had this hand that kept pointing towards a particular direction. The next day, I told the people who lived in that house that this is a dream that I saw. And to be honest, I just took it as a dream. I didn't. I mean, I was not very serious about it. But you know how people in villages are. They tend to take these omens very seriously, more serious than a horror writer, to be honest. Okay. And they were all like, okay, that direction. So there, what is there? I mean, yeah, there is a sthana. There is Chamundi's sthana there. And Chamundi is was the Jagada Daiva. Jaga was the Daiva of that particular place.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, maybe it has something to do with it. I don't know. I didn't take it seriously. And the very next night is when the real haunting / sleep paralysis happened with me. And I was sleeping, and we were all very tired after the whole day's puja. And it was a very hot April or May. I don't remember exactly. But I just, while sleeping, I suddenly woke up and I couldn't move my body at all because I felt like somebody is standing right behind me. And I knew that there was a pillar. It's an ancestral house. It's like 100-year-old house. So you've got the old structure there. And right behind there was a pillar, and I wanted to turn around and see who's there, but I couldn't turn. So that's why I say, it could be sleep paralysis, but I never had an episode of sleep paralysis before that. So I kept trying to turn, but I couldn't. There was this weird anxiety, and I just kept praying. I mean, then I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to Chamundi Sthana. I don't know why. And after that, I saw this black cat sitting perched at the window, moving right outside the window. And then again, the same thing happened. The next morning, I told the relatives about this particular incident. They were like, okay, there's a black cat. So this definitely has to do with Chamundi. And then I made sure that I went to that sthana. It's an old sthana. Nobody goes there, especially after 5 o'clock. Nobody steps in that region because Chamundi is considered one of the fierce deities. So went there, paid my obeisances, and after that, nothing has ever happened to me there. I have written this particular book in that house, last year. But I had no such experience because I made sure that I visited the sthana. And it's a way of paying respect to the customs of a place because I grew up in the city. Okay, and all these things look very primitive. But for the people in the village, it still means a lot. And I think whether it was a Chamundi or whether it was a ghost or whether it was simple sleep paralysis, thing is, when we are, there are certain things, there are certain truths which we may never be able to find out.
Okay. And on your writing, I mean, was there any other profound impact on your writing because of this particular incident?
For this particular book or in general?
No, in this particular book, yes.
No, I think there was this, when you're writing, there is a little bit of a belief that crept inside you. I can say that. Yeah. So I think that is what you'll see in the book. You are not writing. So that's what when you talked about early English writers, the British writers who were writing about Daivaradhane, or even the scholars, most of them, they are kind of disconnected.
Okay.
They're disconnected in the sense that they don't believe in it.
Okay.
Okay. And as a writer, obviously, I've kept an objective point of view throughout the book. But deep inside, I do believe in this truth which exists, and that's why I think that effect has come from one of these incidents. I mean, that effect has come, and this incident was one of them which brought this effect. There are other things also which has happened in life. I mean, the past 5 or 6 years. So yeah, I think all those things come in the book one by one.
Okay. There's also a part where you say that the taking of photos sort of it spoils the sanctity of the proceedings. I mean, that happens a lot, I would imagine, now with everyone and their phone cameras. And did you encounter similar problems while trying to write or research about them?
So there were moments when I was going around with a huge mirrorless camera. So, but the thing is about mobile phones and clicking photos and making reels during live performances, this kind of affects not just the cola performance, it affects everything these days. In general, people are not living in the moment, they are living inside the phone. So I think, one of the interesting incidents which happened during a cola was when a guy was trying to click a picture of this person dressed up as Daiva. It was a Guliga Daiva, one of the most fearsome deities in Tulunadu. And Guliga was like, stop it. Yeah. The moment that happened, everybody was like, they showed their phones inside their pockets because, I think we are somehow losing out on a lot of things in life because of our mobile phones. Everywhere we're going, we're just carrying the phone and recording everything. We're not witnessing things that are happening right in front of our eyes. So in general, this is a habit which, call me old school, but yeah, I think this has to work. At least we have to reduce it, if not.
There's another part, I think you touched upon this, in which this road to Satyolu, as you call it in your book. You say that there was a time there was so much physical and emotional pain that it was making it impossible for you to move forward. What exactly did you mean by this?
So emotional pain, one of the greatest pains which I experienced last year, 2 years ago, I've already mentioned it in the beginning of the book. That is a loss of a couple of loved ones. And one of them was my grandmother, who was the one who inspired me to become a writer. She used to tell me all the stories of yakshis and mohinis when I was a kid. A lot of people say, why do grandmothers tell stories of yakshis to children? But yeah, it's her stories which inspired me to become a writer in the first place. So I lost her a year before I wrote Daiva, and I had some health issues. And one of the health issues was terrible lower back pain, and it was keeping me from moving around. And it's kind of it didn't allow me to go to shoots. So that was the kind of issues I was facing at that time. And emotionally, I was drained. More than physically, it was the emotional drainage, which kind of, I don't know. So at that time, and when I pitched this idea of, so I've written horror till date, and I wanted to get out of the horror zone, and I wanted to write about Indian folklore and the mythology that you get to see from the southern part of the country, mostly from Kerala, Tulunadu, Tamil Nadu, because that's the region where my ancestors are from, although I grew up in Delhi. So I've always been fascinated by the stories of this region, and that is why I thought maybe I should write something about the Daivas of Tulunadu. Or at that time, it was the Bhootas. And I pitched this idea. My editor liked the idea, and eventually they commissioned this project. But what happened was that I was trying to contact people. I was trying to get research material for this book, and I wasn't getting any success in that. And then the health issues were just storing up. They were just piling up one after the other. I couldn't even travel out of my home. That was a condition. And it was at that time, when my wife, she suggested, just at her place, there's a Daiva called Satyadevata. And she suggested to light a lamp, pray to Satyadevata, and see if it happens. Because I was at that point thinking of, returning the advance and, stopping the entire research. I mean, calling off this project. But then something happened. I don't know. Suddenly I got calls from people whom I didn't expect would help. And then I just started exploring. No back pain, no whatever fever and whatever issue with the stomach was there, everything went away. And I was spending nights in remote places in the coastal southern Karnataka region, northern Kerala, meeting absolutely unknown people. It was fun.
Okay.
Something was helping me, something was pushing me. I don't want to say it was a supernatural force. It could be a determination, whatever you want to say, because then you will say, this writer is too superstitious to be a writer. So, but something helped. Perhaps it was just this belief that I wanted to finish this book. But yeah, that's what I said. There is some truth. And I've tried to explore that truth in Tulunadu in this particular book. In the next book, I might be exploring the truth from another region, maybe a neighboring region, which the people believe in. These are not the things that scholars would want you to believe, or politicians would want you to believe, or religious gurus would want you to believe. These are the things that people believe in, and I think that is why this book is very different from the regular literature which you would find on this subject in Kannada or in any other language. Because when I'm talking to people and I'm trying to understand their perspective, and I've brought that perspective in this book, along with the perspectives of the scholars and all the research that has happened before this.
Absolutely. I mean, every section is explained, enough caveats put, every note put in.
Very carefully explained.
Yeah, very carefully explained.
Trying to keep logics here and there so that people...
and not being dismissive, of course, of any sort of conflicting beliefs or any conflicting theories. Yes.
Yeah, because see, at the end of the day, a lot of people get hope from the Daiva. I think that whether it's Daivas or the Nagas or Shiva or Shakti or Jesus or whoever it is, whatever God you follow, if something is giving you hope, then we should not try to take it away. That's what I believe.
So, I mean, though the Bhuta culture has, dates back centuries, it last came out, or rather, it was made very popular recently with this movie, the Kantara film. But, though that became a runaway success, everyone suddenly wanted to know more about it. The people in Tulunadu have their own bones to pick with this particular film and probably the portrayal of this film, right? So, is there an attempt in your book that sort of takes the middle path as sort of a book that educates more than portrays?
I think Kantara, whatever said and done, it has brought Daivaradhane on a grand global scale. Everybody, until then, it was only the people in that particular region who knew about Daivaradhane. Even people outside, the people from other parts of Karnataka, they weren't aware of such a culture.
Okay.
I mean, not to the extent that they are now. Today, if you show an image, or today we released the trailer of this book, all the videos that I shot during the research, it was part of the trailer. And when I showed it to somebody, that person, very highly educated, this person told me, are these visuals from Kantara? Okay. So the thing is, today, if you show the image of a Kola artist in the getup of a Daiva, people will immediately connect it with Kantara. Had you done that 3 years ago, 2 years ago, leave a person in North India, a person from Tamil Nadu wouldn't be able to connect it. Right. So that way, I think Kantara did a good thing. As for my book, Kantara kind of opened a box, and a lot of my friends in the north, for them, everything was just one. Kya kehte hain? It's just whatever you see. Yeah, this is Kantara. They see a Teyyam, this is Kantara. They see any Daiva, it is Kantara. So I wanted to clear that air as well. There is no deity called Kantara. Even I think in one of the popular podcasts that I came in, I was talking about Teyyam, and suddenly the host started asking me if this is related to Kantara. So no, everything is not related to Kantara. So, but people who wanted to explore more about the culture, about the Daivas of Tulunadu, for them, this book is perfect because it's explained in a very simple, easy to understand language without going into the complicated. See, if you go to a person in Tulunadu, they know far more than what I could tell you, right? They would know about the local history of this Daiva. When a Daiva comes to a particular village, what did the Daiva do there? They would know better, right? But a person outside, they wouldn't know any of those things. They wouldn't even know who is this Daiva. So it is for those kind of people. And then also, this book is for the migrants, the people who have migrated out of Tulunadu, like people like me. I grew up in Delhi. So children who are who are of Tulu origin, but right now they're in Bombay or Bangalore or Delhi or America, wherever they are. For them, this book will give them a glimpse of their culture, which they should be really proud of. Right? Especially since Tulu is a language without a script, without a proper recognition. Still having so much of literature, it is a big thing, and everyone, every Tuluva, every Indian should be aware of that. So yeah, that was my aim, and I have taken a middle path, if you want to put it that way.
So you've in our own, I mean, the print also did do a story on this, where it reported on the Tulunadu region. And of course, it was not particularly or as well researched, or rather, not as in depth as the Daiva book that you have written. But there is the thing that, what used to be a very private affair, the Daivaradhane, the Bhuta culture, has now become this big event, very big managed. You have fairs around these events. Now, was this something that you encountered while writing the book? Do you believe that some of these, that it's become slightly a little more modern, the traditional aspects of it is kind of getting lost?
So this is a debate which I have encountered while I was researching, when I was meeting people. There are two types of opinions which I encountered. One is that things have to evolve, right? You need to have a live coverage of this kola. You have to finish this within usually a kola starts from sunset and ends at sunrise. And this artist sings the entire Pardana during this time. And this Pardana is the entire journey of this Daiva. That's how they kept these stories alive. Whatever you read in the second part of the book is because of all these kola artists who have preserved it. Okay. Today, unfortunately, people don't have time. So this Pardana is kind of cut short. And honestly, you don't even you can't even hear it at times. And I'm not saying this is wrong or this is bad, but this is the way life has become right now, especially in urban areas, right? So this is a debate which is going on, and there is a section of people who believe that this is how this Daivaradhane has evolved, and then there is a section which believes that no, the old ways, the Purva Katle was the correct, or the authentic way of worshipping the Daivas, where there should be no lights and it should all be mashals and torches and no phones. But again, I cannot give my opinion on this, to be honest, because if you look at a normal Satyanarayana Puja, which is conducted in many Hindu households, the Satyanarayana Puja is supposed to be, it's supposed to have a Satyanarayana part where the priest reads the story of Satyanarayana. But nowadays it's like half an hour, 1 hour, they have to finish it and they have to go to the next place. So that's how it is. Otherwise, the people who have invited the priest, they will start complaining, why are you taking so much of our time? So this is a debate where I cannot take a stand. I would definitely, as a writer, as a researcher, I prefer the olden ways because it's true to the soil. But then again, even the old ways must have evolved from somewhere, right?
Correct.
So yeah, that's what I believe. And as for the previous question, which you had asked about Kantara and the entire controversy behind it, see, the people in the region hold these Daivas with a lot of respect. The whole one of the controversies that was created, I think, was during, I don't know what happened, but I had heard that somebody had dressed up like a kola artist as Panjurli Daiva, as it was shown in the movie. And this was a controversy because only a particular community is allowed to dress up or impersonate these Daivas. So I think we have to respect that. There is nothing wrong in respecting that, and somehow this time is such where everything is commercialized. So before you know, you'll start getting bobbets of Panjurli and all those things. So yeah, if the people, those who believe in these Daivas, do not like it, then why hurt their feelings? That's what I feel.
So you sort of said that you want to carry on the research for a truth, another land, another form of worship, another book. I just want to understand the kind of interest for such kind of literature.
The interest, I think everybody, mythology is one of the, mythology and folklore, it's one of the most popular genres in India, for sure. Otherwise you wouldn't see Amish Tripathi and all these writers selling so many, lakhs of copies. But when it comes to regional mythology or folk mythology, we don't have a lot of books out there. This is what I feel, and that is one of the reasons why I wanted to start from Daiva. Whether it has a huge market or not, that is something that we'll come to know in the course of time, how Daiva moves. But I wrote Daiva because of my personal interest. It was not because.
In the book, you also have you've recorded or documented a conversation you had with a friend who was very interested about this.
Daiva. Their friend's name is Dave. Yeah. I think that's the conversation, right? In the second chapter in Gurgaon. Yeah. So those were one of the triggers, because when I was going to whenever I go to North or whenever I speak to my friends from Delhi or Bombay, especially after watching Kantara, everybody had a lot of questions. Who are these? What is Bhuta? Are these ghosts? Are these evil spirits? So somehow I felt maybe I can answer all these questions. Because there was so much of curiosity. I thought maybe I can answer these questions with a book. And also, it was one way of paying a tribute to the rich cultural heritage of my motherland, if I can call it my motherland. And in fact, yesterday we were thinking about posting something. It was Mother's Day, and I was thinking about posting, a post about the motherland, mother tongue. So yeah, that's how this thing happened. It wasn't because there's a demand for this book or whether there's a demand for this kind of literature. I don't know about that. I'm just a writer. I'm not your market researcher.
All right.
But yeah, this one was Tulunadu. Next one, I'll be moving from Tulunadu to a bit more, southwards to Kerala, maybe.
Okay.
So yeah, there will be a little bit of Tulunadu in that book, and then from there I move to Kerala. Okay. I won't reveal what is the form of worship which I am researching. It's too early because I'm still researching. And my publisher wouldn't be happy if I reveal that. So,
yeah, because it does say that you're working on a series.
I am working on that. There's a fiction that is coming up there's a fiction which is coming out in October or November. which is also loosely based on folk mythology. But the continuation of Daiva, it's a non-fiction, and I'm working on it. And it should come out sometime next year.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Hari Kumar, for speaking to us.
Thank you so much for having me on
the.